This ball, let's go.
Get ready for Beyond the Arc, the show that eats, sleeps, and breathes the hardwood. Featuring two guys who know how to move on the court.
You got a defender in your way, you take him to the left, you take him back to the right, and he's falling back, and you just Jay right in his face. And then you look at him. And then you say what?
A couple of basketball junkies who shine the spotlight on everyone in the world of hoops.
I got game, she got game, we got game, they got game, he got game.
It's the coach, Bryan Fulford.
My entire adult life, I've never used the expression game face.
And the scout, Steve Barnhart from HardwoodHoopsCentral.com.
That boy is good.
Gentlemen, the court is yours.
Good evening. Back and better than ever. You're listening to Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops, live from the 740 The Game studios in Orlando, Florida, and the iHeart Radio Network. My name is Bryan Fulford, joined by my partner in the backcourt, Steve Barnhart from HardwoodHoopsCentral.com. Steve, what up, my man? How you doing?
The best basketball show in the world is back. That's well right. Said. I said it. I don't care.
Well said. That's what
if you don't believe in it. If you don't believe in it, why should anybody else?
Well, that's what we're striving for, baby. Glad to be back with you after a week off, and it's perfect timing because we are, the schools are back in session. We are months away, probably about 50 days until I think I saw this number about 50 days until the start of the NBA season.
Mm-hmm.
Camps will be kicking in probably at the end of this month. So, lots to get excited about. We want to make sure you interact with us in the plethora of ways that we have set up for you to do so. Follow us on Twitter at BTA Hoops. On Facebook, it's Beyond the Arc Podcast. I always pause here because I know you have the rest.
And there you go. The rest can be found on HardwoodHoopsCentral.com. Click on the Beyond the Arc show. Click on that page and everything else that you need, where you can hear past episodes, where you can hear the podcast, how you can follow us. All that's on that page.
All right. So in today's show, we've got some playoff realignment discussion. We'll also get into a little college basketball talk about some players and teams that we like for the upcoming year. We will definitely pay respect to the 2015 Basketball Hall of Fame class, which will be Friday, inducting tomorrow, Friday,
right. Yeah.
And a few other news nuggets. But let's get right into the opening tip.
The ball is
All right, here we go, Steve. I know you're starting. It's growing on you.
No, it's not.
America, hit up Steve. Let him know you love.
It's growing on me like a wart, and I don't like it.
All right, so the NBA had the Board of Governors unanimously approved changes to the playoff seeding. So essentially what we've had and what we've sort of grown up with is we've grown up with divisions, and within the divisions we have two conferences, and within the conferences we have divisions.
Mm-hmm.
The division, you win your division, it sort of has given you a first place or an opportunity to host a first round, and it's given you higher seeding. Well, over the last few years, that's become an issue, and based on the imbalance, really. I mean, we all noticed the Western Conference over the last decade or so has been owning the East. I mean, literally, the stats are out there. We were looking at it earlier. Over the past, since 2002, the Western Conference interdivision or interconference record during the season they've had a higher winning percentage than the Eastern Conference in every year but 2009. Every year they've had a better winning percentage. So, of course, last year, this past year, we came to a situation where outside of the 1 seed Golden State, you had a situation, Steve, where you had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it was, or at least 2 through 5. They were all right there within a game of each other, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, all within a game of each other. So because of the seeding, we ended up with a first-round matchup between the Clippers who were the 3 seed.
Yeah, I think it was
3 seed, and San
Antonio,
Antonio,
right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
who was a 6 seed.
Right.
Well, many people felt I mean, the Clippers were probably
people wanted to see something like that towards the end of the playoff series.
Right.
I'm one of them.
Right. Okay. So essentially, what it's this new decision now by the League Board of Governors is basically within each conference, seeds 1 through 8 will be based on win-loss record.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
You think so? Right off the bat.
I mean, yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, just make it plain and simple. Where the chips fall, that's where we pick it up at. Right for playoff time. Wherever your record is, wherever you fall, that's what your seeding is.
So what that eventually brings to the table now is this whole discussion of why do we even have divisions? Right now there are 3 divisions in each conference, each with let me do the math here, 5 teams each.
Mm-hmm.
But based on this, you could easily see a scenario, and we've talked about this,
right.
The Southwest division in the Western Conference, we probably agree that it might be the best in basketball.
It is.
Okay, you could conceivably have all 5 teams in there and be seeded 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that would probably make a lot of people real happy.
I mean, like I said, if that's how it falls, that's how it falls.
So now you get into this discussion about what's the next step, and that's where we start getting into the models. And I came back to and I heard this. I'll reference this as I heard it on another show. I don't have any shame of saying that. And they brought up an interesting article that was done by Tom Ziller from SB Nation. This was all the way back in November, late November of 2014. Mm-hmm. So that's basically the beginning of last season, okay, in which he put out a proposal that at that time he said would fix the conference imbalance in the NBA schedule. So just to throw this scenario out, and then Steve and I kind of got to talking, and we were like, we ought to have our own format. We went back and forth on it, and so just to set this up, and I want your thoughts as you hear this.
Mm-hmm.
Tom in this article brings out and breaks down what he calls a 5-region NBA, in which you've got the Pacific, Big West, as he calls them, Lakes, Atlantic, and Southeast.
Right.
Okay. And within this model, what he tried to do is he tried to fit everything within an 82-game schedule.
Right.
So within your 5 divisions, and I think what do you say this felt like as you first heard it? It felt more like a college feel to it.
The names that he gave it.
All right. So I mean, you can call it whatever you want to, but and you hear, okay, so you've got, let's just go with the Southeast, because right here in Florida, you've got the Orlando Magic, which will be in the Southeast, and in that pod, in that region of 5, you got the Heat, Magic, and Pelicans, which sort of make up what he calls a hub of 3. And then the other 3, you have the Hornets, Hawks, and Grizzlies.
Right.
Okay, so based on his scenario and what he proposed, he said each team would essentially play the teams in their hub 5 times. So that's 10 games. So, for example, the Magic would play the Heat and Pelicans 5 times.
Right.
What's the most you play them now? What is, like,
I don't know.
4, 3?
3-4 times.
3-4 times.
It really depends how the schedule works out.
Okay, so that's 10 games. Then the other 3 teams in that region, you play 4 times. That's 12 games. So now you're at 22 games. Then you play 2 teams. You play teams from 2 other regions 3 times. So let's just say the Southeast plays the Big West and the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
3 times each. That's 36 games, 58 now. You're at a total.
Right.
Now you've still got the 2 remaining regions that you play twice. So that'd be the Pacific and the Lakes. And that's 24 games. And miraculously, boom, you got 82 games.
Okay.
In general, your thoughts as you hear that proposal?
I'm good with it. I mean, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'm like this. I like the evenness of playing, the people, folks within your geographical region, and then of course crossing over and playing, playing other regions. However, and it seems like just from looking at it or thinking about it, it might save on some travel as well, depending on how you set it up.
Right.
So there's some things there to like about it. I don't necessarily dislike it.
All right. So as I kind of thought about it, I don't know what it would really do to your traditional Eastern and Western conferences.
Mm-hmm.
I like the tradition of the Eastern and Western Conference. Now, in my scenario, and you know, I call this the fair play deal. The fair play deal in which within the Eastern or Western Conference, okay, there's not much that would have to change. If you're an Eastern Conference team, you play your Western Conference teams 2 times. Okay? Now, the problem right now, if you're an Eastern Conference team, you've got the 14 other teams, and, you know, do the math, that's 52 games that are left. That doesn't divide evenly against 14. So it leaves you with this mix of some teams you play 3, sometimes you play 4. And I argue, Steve, that that's where your first system of imbalance comes. Mm-hmm. The fact that you don't play everybody equally. So even that out, by now, putting either 3 or 4, and you know, you decide, but if you say you're going to play everybody in the Eastern Conference 3 times, your total number of games in the regular season reduces down to 72. Mm-hmm. If you choose to say play everybody in your Eastern Conference 4 times, you've increased the schedule now by 4 games from 82 to 86.
Mm-hmm. Well, you automatically know they're not going to increase games. Players are already wanting to decrease games.
You don't think they would increase games?
Of course, I mean, well,
what if they shorten the preseason?
Okay, look, in order to get more revenue into the NBA, of course they'd want to extend the season. However, I don't think they necessarily would do that because obviously the players' union would have a fit and we'd be going back and forth on that. And I don't see it happening unless there was some sort of understanding that the preseason would be either shortened or go away completely.
See, I maintain if you can get it to 72, though, you've opened up 10 extra games. I mean, right now we're already talking. You have to play 82 games within about 160 days, mm-hmm. and that's already including the Thanksgiving holiday. That's including the week for the All-Star break.
Right.
You know, so if you reduce to 82 games, that's 10 less games. Can you imagine how much better basketball you're going to get? Because one, you're going to have less back-to-backs, which right now everybody's probably about 20, averaging about 20 back-to-backs. You're less back-to-backs. Travel might be better off. You're going to have a better brand of basketball, mm-hmm. in my opinion, if you reduce it to 72. I mean, that's 5 home games that you're losing, which that's always, no one wants to talk about, oh, that's revenue that we're losing. Now you have a deal. And we had a good conversation last night on this, and I know
outside the box thinking
always
gets some sort of backlash.
You've called this
Brian's very safe. I'm more like, listen.
Very safe. I'm very safe and traditional.
I'm more like, hey, let's shake things up. Listen, the bottom line, the reason why the NBA is doing what they're doing is to try to make games more important for their fan base. They don't want a random guy in Miami to sue the league or the Spurs because the Spurs show up and decide to rest their best players for the night. That's kind of what they look at, and they say, okay, we don't want that anymore. We want every time you show up to a game that there's a very good chance you'll see the players that you want to see. Because let's be honest, the NBA is all about star power. We go to watch matchups. You go to watch players. You don't necessarily go to watch a team. So in my proposal, what I would say is this.
Called the Final 8.
Calling the Final 8. What I would want to do is in the first 68 games, you seed them based on record, no different than what they're proposing now. But all I'm saying is I've always felt like the teams that go into the playoffs hot are the teams you really need to pay attention to because those are the teams you probably don't want to play at that time of the year because they're going in playing at a high level at the right time of year. So for me, at the 68 game mark, you figure out where all the chips fall, who's 1 through 8. Now, let's say you have a situation where you have the 8 and the 9 seed. They're at a tied record, okay? If they're at a tie record, then all you have to do is look at the head-to-head between the two teams and say, okay, who's got the better record? That's the team that gets the 8 seed. So now you've got your 8 teams. So that leaves 14 games basically left, right?
14 games to get to 82, right.
So all I want is the final 8 teams in each conference to play each other twice. It'd be a home-and-home situation.
1 home, 1 away.
A home-and-home situation. So nobody can complain that, hey, this team had a better schedule because they got more home games or whatever. It's a home-and-home. You're playing everybody twice within those 8 teams within that 14-game set. And within that 14 games, what you're looking for is the teams that are playing really well so that at the end of the year, you can say, you know what? The 5 seed played really well. They went 13-1 in those 14 games, and they played playoff teams because that's how we have them seeded.
Okay.
So what we want to do is at the end of the season take a look at those things and see if maybe they should be bumped up a little bit. Maybe instead of being a 5 seed, maybe they deserve to be a 4 seed. Maybe a seed or two in front of them didn't play so well. Maybe we need to think about that a little bit and not necessarily give them a favorable seeding just because 68 games they happen to be a game or two better or 5 games better or whatever. Because me personally, I like knowing who's going to go into the playoffs hot because those are the teams I particularly like. I'm a big believer in playing well at the right time. And so what I want to do is be able to take that and sort of reward it in a way that says, okay, we need to look at these teams that are playing at a high level at the right time of year, and maybe we can bump them up. Now,
so are you creating a committee? Is there a committee that's going to look at this after
to
the
a
14
degree,
games?
But when people hear that, they automatically think BCS, they think NCAA selection, they think, I hate it. Look, it's not going to be that difficult. We're not comparing resumes here. All we're saying is we're just looking at the teams that might have played well in that 14 games, and we're deciding if we want to bump them up a little bit. If not, we leave them where they're at, and we're good to go. This isn't a long deliberation. This isn't, a trial where we're, sitting in a room with 12 other people trying to figure out who should be guilty and who's not.
So you've created a prelude to the playoffs, essentially.
A preseason to the playoffs. How much hype and parity can you create out of that?
Okay, well let me be the buzzkill as I was when we talked about this. I'm going to be Greg Popovich, and I go into that prelude to the playoffs, the final 8,
right,
as the 2 seed.
Right.
I got an old group. I want to rest these guys,
and you know what?
So I may not play my guys.
And look.
All 14 games.
At the end of the day, though, I already know he's going to do that. There's going to be strategy in this, of course. There's going to be strategy in this. So if he feels like, okay, you know what, we're only 2 games up on the 3 seed, and we're only 5 or 3 or 4 games up on the 4 seed. If they feel like, hey, if somebody passes us, we're still good with playing any of those other teams we'd be matched up with. If that's how you feel, hey, more power to you.
Something that just popped into my head. I didn't think about it yesterday. What if you incentivized this by increasing sort of playoff share bonuses? I mean, would that be appealing to players to say, "Hey, coach, don't rest us. We got to if we can finish a top 4 versus finishing 5, 6, or 7, we got a chance to earn a few more extra."
So you're
dollars.
saying if you finish like 1 through 3, you get
or 1 through 4. If you finish 1 through 4. Coming out of the prelude, and there's an extra bonus of $250,000 per player.
Listen, with the way salaries are going to go now, that's always a possibility.
All right, so let me bring it back to the bottom half then, because now 16 teams are playing for something.
And those are the teams we care about. Let's be honest.
Well,
I know the fan bases of those teams are going to say, hey, what about us?
Well, Vegas might have something to say. Vegas is going to think about what about the bottom 14.
Okay, but you can still bet on those games.
And those bottom 14, I mean, there's the lottery, are there lottery implications?
Do you know in Vegas you can go to Vegas and bet on the halftime score?
Of course.
Okay, so people don't necessarily care about the game or who's playing. They just care about a point spread. That's it. Real simple. They don't care about who's. It could be the Suns and whoever. Look, it's point spread. That's all they care about.
All right. You've heard the proposals. We want to hear from you. Hit us up on Facebook at Beyond the Arc Podcast, on Twitter at BTA Hoops. Let us know whose proposal do you like better? The final 8? The
safe and boring type, or the stuff that creates parody and conversation and billboard and board material?
The fair play deal or the final 8? We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Beyond the Arc.
Welcome back to the show that eats, sleeps, and breathes the hardwood. Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops.
What are you doing?
I'm doing 2 things.
What?
I'm making them mad. Most guys don't play good when they're mad.
Basketball. Look, you're embarrassing me. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing I'm doing.
I only have 4 words for you. White men can't jump.
If you're looking to show off your individuality and show everyone what you stand for, let iSlide do the talking for you. iSlide is a premium custom athletic slide company that offers one-of-a-kind, comfy, customized slides that allow you to put your image or artwork on the slide. You can even design a customized slide featuring your favorite NBA team. Visit iSlideUSA.com now to check out all of the variations and design styles that you can create from your own laptop or PC. That's iSlideUSA.com. And for listeners of Beyond the Arc, use promo code BTA15 at checkout and receive 15% off your order. Again, use promo code BTA15 on iSlideUSA.com and stand in what you stand for with iSlide. Brian Fulford here, joined by my partner in the backcourt, Steve Barnhart, HardwoodHoopCentral.com. So, Steve, we are, I don't know, a month and a week or so away from the start of college basketball.
Yep.
Is there any one particular thought or storyline that sort of you are really eager to see going into this year? I feel like we don't have one like we've had the past couple of years when we've had kind of the Kentucky story,
right. Yeah.
the Fab freshman.
I mean, I've been saying this to you for the last couple of years. I'm interested in seeing the rise of the SEC and see how this all pans out. I am really actually interested in watching SEC basketball this year. There's a lot of teams within that conference that have potential and could do something
outside of Kentucky and maybe Florida.
Oh yeah, I mean there's plenty of teams.
Yeah, I haven't really grasped a
world where basketball is significant in the SEC.
Well, because you think about when we started doing this. I mean, and significantly the last couple of years, it's been about the dominance of the one and dones. You had the flirtation of an undefeated season,
right?
Then we actually, and then it actually turned out to be a team, Wichita State, that we didn't expect to have that undefeated season.
Mm-hmm.
Then regular season, and then we turned around the following year when we weren't talking about an undefeated season and actually getting one that went all the way to the Final Four.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like for the past 2 years, we've had strong storylines. We just haven't found them yet. But maybe in talking about some of the guys and teams that we are excited about, we might have some storylines to talk about. So, Steve, we'll kind of bounce back and forth here. I'll start with you, somebody that you're interested in going into this year.
So, I mean, we're talking about players. The guy I'm automatically interested in seeing is Ben Simmons, projected number 1 overall pick in the upcoming 2015 NBA draft. This guy's originally from Australia, as many people in this area would know. Helped Australia win a silver medal at the FIBA Under-17 World Championships in Lithuania in 2012. The following year, he moved to Montverde, Florida, and attended Montverde Academy, where he eventually became the consensus top player in the 2015 high school recruiting class. His versatility for a guy who's 6'9", who can handle the ball and do the things that he can do. I mean, he's the prototypical point forward that we're seeing a lot more of in today's game. And as he develops his shot and continues to work on that area of his game, sky's the limit for a kid like that. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Is he the kind of guy that people can and will rate as a preseason player of the year?
I think so. Sure. I think they would think in those terms, but I don't know if necessarily he'll get to that point.
That's interesting. See, I don't think he comes in with that sort of Jahlil Okafor, Karl Anthony Towns kind of name recognition.
I think it kind of goes with the class because, as we've said before, the 2015 class doesn't really have a whole lot of buzz behind it in general. And so whether or not you're paying attention to the class has something to do with it. Whether or not the media is really paying attention to the class has something to do with it. A lot of people are starting to get enthralled with the 2016 class, and and that includes media and pundits and things of that nature. So the 2016 class will have guys that a lot of people will be drooling over and wanting to take a look at. I don't think the same thing can be said about the 2015 class. I don't really get that there's that buzz there, but he's definitely a guy to pay attention to.
Okay, so I'll jump over to another Fab freshman, Jamal Murray, going to Kentucky, the Canadian, 6'4" shooting guard. We got a chance to watch him, if you watched the Pan Am games. He helped lead Canada to a silver medal.
Mm-hmm.
And, here's a guy who, besides the fact that if you pay attention to international basketball and the potential of the Olympics, one more reason to kind of get excited about the team north of the border.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the collection of guys who they are, literally within 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? People are saying 2022, that's the Olympics where they kind of are saying that's where Canada sort of claims and steps out onto the forefront and says, hey, we might be better than America. Team USA. Anyway, the guy who might be a part of that, Jamal Murray, he was once a member of the 2016 class, reclassified after the Nike Hoops Summit in April, scored 30 points in that, which, I mean, for a guy who at that time would have been a rising senior, reclassified to 2015, committed to Kentucky. I got a feeling we're going to enjoy watching this kid play. Yeah, I mean, he's another guy who's fitting that prototypical new style point guard, a big physical point guard who can play on or off the ball, who can do a lot of different things. He can distribute, great poise for his age. He showed that in the Pan Am games. He, necessarily was coming off the bench, but was able to really show and prove when it came time to step up and play. His poise for guys like him are something that I love seeing, because their feel for the game is one thing, but the ability just to go into the game, ice in your veins, and just be able to do what's asked of you and go beyond that is just impressive, especially at their age. All right, next on your list? Next on my list would be the number 2 overall rated player in the 2015 class, Jaylen Brown. And the reason why I'm interested in seeing Jaylen, I've seen Jaylen and Ben. I've fortunately been able to see them go head to head on the court. At this past City of Palms, Wheeler played Montverde. Wheeler being the team Jaylen Brown plays for in Georgia. Montverde obviously being the team that Ben Simmons plays for. And that night, both guys played extremely well. It just came down to Jaylen Brown had a better supporting cast that night, and they eventually pulled out the City of Palms championship. But he looked great. I mean, just being able to he's one of those physical type guys that wants to put the ball on the floor and just play bully ball all the way to the hoop. Excellent in transition. Big physical guy. As he continues to expand his range, his abilities offensively will begin to take off. He's got the ability to be a really good versatile defender. So he's a guy, and then talking about the program he's going to, Cal, that's a program a lot of people are going to want to pay attention to, and he's their best recruit that's coming in this 2015 class. So I'm interested in seeing not only Cal, but seeing him specifically. California will be actually worth watching this year. Might be worth staying up for some of those late night Pac-12 games. All right, staying on the West Coast, I'm going to go with, and I might get this first name wrong, Domantas Sabonis. Baby Sabonis, Arvydas Sabonis' kid. Sophomore, 7-footer, listed as a quote-unquote forward. But he is. Look, this kid, he only averaged 9.7 points per game, 7.1 rebounds a game in about 21 minutes for Gonzaga this past year. Now, that was a guard-driven Gonzaga team. This year, this is a good front court that Gonzaga is coming to play with this year, and he's their best NBA prospect. This kid, people have talked about the growth of this young man. I don't know if he stays for a third year. I think after the third year is when you really start looking at him and saying, wow, that is – you're talking top 3, 4 possibly, but that will also be – the year when a Harry Giles, a Thon Maker, that'll be a loaded class in 2 years. I have a feeling you're only going to see Sabonis this year. So you better enjoy him, because this is a great time for him to come out with this draft class where he could probably go higher in this class than he would 2 years from now. But would his game be better? Would his game benefit from 2 years? Sure. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm looking forward to seeing the improvement with more minutes and more touches for Sabonis. So my next guy would be Skal Labissière. Is going to Kentucky as their prize recruit for the 2015 class. Projected as being a possible number 1 overall pick in the 2016 class. We're talking about a legit 7-footer with shoes, a near 7'2" wingspan, should develop into a pretty good rim protector. What does that compare to? 7'2" wingspan. Give me who else is rocking a 7'2" wingspan by comparison? Can you think of anybody? I can't think of wingspans off the top of my head like that. I'll put it to you like this. With his ability to protect the rim and then score the way that he does, because he can face up, he can shoot it out to about a good 15, 18 feet. He can put the ball on the floor some. He's explosive above the rim.
He's got a lot of versatility to him, and I don't even think he's even scratched the surface yet. And that's not saying it because he's a young player, but just from like watching him, there's something about him that if you put in the time and effort into a kid like that, he could turn into an NBA All-Star in a blink of an eye.
Will we hear more comparisons of him to Anthony Davis or Karl Anthony Towns this upcoming season?
I don't think either one's really fair.
Fair regardless, but you know what's going to happen. You know.
Well, this is the way I look at it. I've never been a big comparison guy. I know everybody does because they haven't seen these guys, and so they want to know, okay, who should I think about when I think of this guy? However, the way I look at it is like this. Karl Anthony Towns has a freakish wingspan. For Scal BTA having a 7'2" wingspan as a 7-footer, you know, that's what you'd want. I mean, it's not like a freakish. I mean, now he has a standing reach of about 9 feet. So, you know, he's still a very long player, but I wouldn't necessarily say I wouldn't put him up there with Anthony Davis.
All right. Kentucky's going to be fun to watch again. That's all. We've already kind of just hinted at that and told you that. All right. Now, I got some upperclassmen here, some seniors. I'm going to start with the dynamic duo, the backcourt of Ron Baker and Marcus Van Fleet from Wichita State. Baker, the shooting guard, Van Fleet, the point guard, both over the past 3 seasons. I feel like we've seen these guys. We've seen a lot of these guys because over the 3 years at Wichita State, they've helped the Shockers go from being that sort of good. We don't call them mid majors. We call them.
They're called mid majors,
but we don't call them. We don't call them.
We don't try.
What
to
do we call them? We call
that
them the non-Power Five.
There you go.
The non-Power 5 conference of Wichita State to an elite program.
Right.
95-15 record over those 3 years. They went to the Final Four. We all know that game. Probably, took Louisville to the brink. They went unbeaten the next season in the regular season. Got matched up against Kentucky and lost. Last year they went to the Sweet 16. These guys have averaged or combined for 2,200 points, nearly 700 assists, almost 300 steals in their 3 years together. Both of them shoot and about from the arc, from the 3-point line, about 40%, somewhere definitely in the positive plus 40. Some people even saying Baker might be the better NBA prospect than Van Fleet.
I think so.
Either way, I enjoy watching these two guys when you get a chance because this might be the best backcourt 1-2 in the country. Might be. All right.
I mean, they're set.
Most experienced.
There you go.
All right.
I like that. All right, so my next guy, I'm going to make you say this. Jakob Poeltl. Say it with me now. Jakob.
Jakob. Jeez.
Think of saying Jacob, except with
Jakob.
There you go.
Okay.
Jakob Poeltl.
Don't overemphasize Poeltl. How do you spell that? That's the kicker, though.
JAKOBPOELTL.
Last name Poeltl, spelled that way. Nice.
Okay. So, but anyway, so my thing. Okay, so originally from Austria, this guy could arguably be the best defensive center going to the 2016 draft. Great feet, can stay in front of guards. Wings that want to get to the rim. Excellent on ball shot blocker, rim protector, all of that. I think he's definitely a guy that you can look to as an excellent defender at his position. Forces guys off the block, really gets after it. On the offensive end, he pretty much scores 10 feet and in, but last year he shot a little over 69%. So he's good around the basket, showing some back to the basket ability. I'd like to really see him develop more of his face-up game and be able to knock down a 12 to 15-footer comfortably. And he just hasn't gotten there yet. But just on his upside alone, when you talk about rim protection, that is a highly sought-after commodity in the NBA these days. And he'll be a guy that a lot of NBA GMs that will be very happy to try to get.
All right, my last guy, senior Marcus Page. Top senior point guard in the country. I go back to 2 years ago when he got hurt before the tournament as a sophomore, I believe it was. UNC had a championship caliber team. He gets hurt, that team's totally different. Last year, I think what has happened, Marcus Page has improved his jump shot, has even been sort of glossed second half Marcus is something that I read. Which, I mean, look, down the stretch in some games last year, he pretty much was, hitting big shot after big shot in the final half, in the final 20 minutes of that game for Carolina. He's put together almost about 1,400 points, might become the 7th 2,000-point scorer in Carolina history if all goes well. So, I'm interested to see, him coming back says more so about his love for Carolina because he probably might have been better served. Steve, you're shaking your head. No, you don't think he was better served going to the league?
No, I mean, no. It's just not. He's not. I don't really see him doing that great in the league.
Not NBA material.
He'll get a
first
shot.
Round material.
He'll get a shot, but
draftable. No.
I'm not saying he's not draftable. I'm just saying I don't really see too much.
All right.
I'm not saying it ain't going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see the guy do well, but I just. All
right. All right. So before we get out we're about to head to break. Real quick, one team. We'll get more into the podcast later, but real quick, a team that you are eager to see.
A team that I am absolutely eager to see would. You know what? I'm gonna make my man Russ Wood happy and say Maryland Terrapins.
Wow.
I'm actually interested in seeing them. Truthfully, actually interested in seeing them. They are a team that's in the discussion for the number one overall ranking in the preseason. So I'm interested to see what they'll do.
I will stick to the Big Ten, and my love of Indiana basketball, but I'm eager to see because of all of the off-field things going on around the program. Where here you're going into this year for Indiana, and it's a potentially talented team. A lot of people seem to think this team might be the second best team in the Big Ten, maybe one of the top 3. But you've got distractions. You've got guys getting kicked off for alcohol and drug-related issues. The coach is under fire, Tom Crean. Who I think is a great coach, but I don't know what your expectations. Everyone has high expectations, so I'm just looking to see, can this team sort of fulfill the prophecy? Can they really get to the Sweet 16? But in the end, the question that all Hoosier fans are going to have to ask: What is your expectation? How far do you want this team to go before you sort of say, "Yeah, I like what we did"? Before you appreciate the season, because fan bases in general have gotten to the point where nobody appreciates anything anymore. You don't appreciate winning a conference. You don't appreciate getting to the tournament. You don't appreciate getting to the Sweet 16. It's like if you don't get to the Final Four, which only 4 teams out of 351 can do, it's like my season was a flop, and my coach should be fired.
That's what happens when you set the bar high.
I don't know. All right, we're going to hit the break, and we're going to come back for the final quarter of this episode. You are listening to Beyond the Arc on the iHeart, presented by TNT Elite Hoops. Presented by TNT Elite Hoops. Let me get that right. On the iHeart Radio Network.
Welcome back to the show featuring 2 hoops junkies who need to work on their free throws. Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops. Visit TNTEliteHoops.com to make your hoops game better today.
Buddy, get the ball to Jimmy, top of the key. Buster, just spread the floor. Let's go.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, presented by TNT Elite Hoops. On the iHeart Radio Network, Brian Fulford, joined by my man Steve Barnhart, hardwoodhoopscentral.com. Make sure to go check out the guys at TNT Elite Hoops. That's trainers Jared Triton and Nick Trapp. Over 16 years of elite training experience. From beginners to pros, boys and girls, TNT Elite Hoops will focus on improving your skills and taking your basketball goals to new levels. Make your game better today, not tomorrow. All right, so we want to pay respect to the Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2015. You have a group of players, coaches,
mentors.
I think they call them players, coaches, contributors. I think are the 3 categories.
Okay.
All right, so let's go with who's got 6?
I got 6.
There are 11 people going into the class. We're going to give you a name and a quick nugget on each person. Steve, go.
All right, so we've got Tommy Heinsohn. Heinsohn was the only person to have a distinction of being involved in an official team capacity in each of the Celtics' 17 championships, as well as each of their 21 NBA Finals appearances. He's now actually a color commentator for the Celtics during their home game. So if you get NBA League Pass, you'll be able to hear him.
Also inducted as a player, Louis Dampier, an Indianapolis native, played for Kentucky under Adolph Rupp on the team that lost to Texas Western. He is one of 2 players to play in all 9 ABA seasons. Props to Mr. Dampier.
Spencer Haywood played in the ABA and NBA. In his rookie season, Haywood led the ABA in scoring at 30 points per game and rebounding at 19.5 rebounds per game while leading the Rockets to the ABA's Western Division. Back then it was division titles. He was named to the All-Star game in 4 of his 5 seasons with Seattle, averaging 24.9 points per game and 12.1 rebounds per game in his 5 seasons.
Lisa Leslie inducted as a player. She was the 7th pick of the 97 inaugural WNBA draft for the LA Sparks. She's one of the sort of the Mount Rushmore of WNBA athletes. She was a 4-time Olympic gold medal winner for Team USA. She was a 3-time WNBA MVP, 2-time WNBA champion, 8-time All-Star, and the first woman to dunk in a WNBA game.
George Raveling, commonly called Coach, Nike's first director of international basketball. He was the head coach at Southern Cal, USC, Iowa, and Washington State, as well as an assistant at Villanova, Maryland, and he was an assistant on the 84 Olympic gold medal team. He was also the first African-American coach in the ACC and what was then called the Pac-8.
Coach John Calipari, currently the head coach at Kentucky.
First time hearing that name?
I know, right? But Calipari, a 3-time Naismith College Coach of the Year, led 3 schools to the Elite 8, UMass, Memphis, Kentucky, 2 of those schools to championship games. He has a record of 593 and 174 in college. He has put 25 guys into the NBA draft in the first round, making millionaires. Congrats, Coach Cal.
Dikembe Mutombo, 18 seasons in the NBA. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award 4 times in his career and was an 8-time All-Star. He is second in the NBA in block shots behind Akeem Olajuwon with 3,289 blocks. But aside from the on-the-court stuff, it's the off-the-court things that he became most known for. He actually opened up a hospital in his Democratic Republic of Congo. It opened in 2007. The $29 million facility became the first modern medical facility to be built in that area in nearly 40 years.
Coach Lindsay Gaze played for Australia's national team in 3 Olympics from 60 to 68. He coached 4 Olympic teams for Australia from 72 to 84. He coached for 35 years in what they call the National Basketball League over in Australia for the Melbourne Tigers. A tremendous career record for Coach Lindsay Gaze.
JoJo White represented the U.S. men's basketball team during the 1968 Summer Olympics. After the Olympics, he was selected 9th overall in the 1969 NBA draft by the Celtics, where he led the team to 2 NBA championships, played 9 seasons, and set a franchise record of 488 consecutive games played.
Going in as a player, John Isaacs, listed as an African-American professional basketball player who once he began his career with the Harlem-based all-African-American New York Renaissance. Back in the 30s, they played in what was called the World Professional Basketball Tournament at that time, taking professional teams from all over. He led that New York Rens team to the first title. He later won a title in 1943 with the Washington Bears. And just go do some history on the World Professional Basketball Tournament, and you'll see teams like the Globetrotters, the Fort Wayne Pistons, who later became the Detroit Pistons, and the Minneapolis Lakers, who later became the LA Lakers, all played in this tournament. A little history for you.
There you go. So since starting as a ref in 1975, Dick Bavetta never missed an assigned game. He holds the league record for most officiated games. His game on April 12, 2013 in Washington was his 2600th consecutive game as an NBA official. He retired after 39 seasons officiating 2,635 consecutive games. And he's mostly known for his race against Charles Barkley for charity.
Or the kiss with Charles Barkley.
That
maybe.
too.
All right, so congratulations to the class of 2015. Steve, it's time to go into the 2-minute drill, the 2-minute offense. Let's get into some quick news nuggets. Going on right now, just in case you didn't know, FIBA Americas are going on.
Look, you got to watch it because, you know, at the end of the day, I have a good feeling that this year's Olympics in Rio are going to be great. So this is a good chance for you to start being able to watch some of the teams that are going to try to qualify.
Final four is Canada versus Venezuela. That's tomorrow, followed by Argentina versus Mexico, a rematch of that game. I watched that game last night. Argentina versus Mexico was a fun game. Mexico won it 95-83. I think ridiculous. They outscored them 36-11 in the fourth quarter. Argentina might be the best team in this field, but Canada has played really well, and now, of course, Mexico with another chance to play them. So it'll be fun basketball to watch. Top two teams automatically advance to the Olympics.
There you go. So according to Grantland's Zach Lowe, the Knicks aren't quite ready to engage in trade talks for Carmelo Anthony, but as he says, they're getting closer. And I say it's about time.
I say don't go. Carmelo, no, don't do it. Draymond Green has pledged $3.1 million to Michigan State for athletics and academics. Props to Dre Green for following in the footsteps of other Michigan State basketball alums like Magic Johnson and Steve Smith. Says he wants to, if I recall seeing here, the academic side of it is more so going to fund a scholarship program for inner city kids in Green's hometown of Saginaw, Michigan. So not only giving back to the athletics in his basketball program, but also finding a way for other students to pursue an education. Props, Dre Green, props.
Definitely. And before we log off, the last two bits of information, 2016 point guard Dennis Smith Jr. commits to NC State just a few hours ago. And last little bit of news, we gotta